Hi everyone, I'm Yasha and welcome to the 10th episode of Election Scoop. We did it, we're at 10. Today we'll be continuing our series on the party systems, continuing with what is so cleverly known as the second party system. Last time we left off in the early 1820s during an age of domination under the Democratic Republican Party, which seemed destined to rule the United States for the foreseeable future. However, this period would soon prove quite fleeting. It all starts with the election of 1824. Previously, the nominee of the Congressional Caucus of the Democratic Republican Party would be nominated as the presidential candidate for that party. This means that all the Democratic Republican members of Congress would get together and select the candidate for their party. But their nominee in the election of 1824, William Crawford, was a very weak candidate, having suffered a crippling stroke a year before, and internally being known as more of a diplomat or bureaucrat than real politician. And with running as a Federalist not being an option, 3 Democratic Republican candidates just discarded the Congressional Caucus and ran anyway. One was Speaker of the House Henry Clay. The other was Secretary of State John Quincy Adams, and the last was General and former Tennessee Senator Andrew Jackson. Jackson was born in an area called the Waxhaws, a rugged region between the Carolinas that was so poorly mapped out that we don't actually know which state Jackson was born in. It could have been on either side of the border. And that detail neatly sums up Jackson's hard-fought life. When he was a teenager, he got a scar on his cheek from a British officer who he refused to do work for during the Revolutionary War. He was a military general turned plantation owner and statesman who campaigned hard based off his ideal of the common person, which at the time meant white males. However, although Jackson won more votes and more states than any other candidate, he did not get a majority of the Electoral College, and the House of Representatives, who chooses the president in this case, went with Adams. Jackson's men were furious, calling corruption and foul, and in the midst of all the smoke, the Democratic Republican Party fell apart, a victim of its own unwieldy power. Out of this vacuum rose 2 major parties, the Democrats and the Whigs. The Democrats are the same party, although with different clauses than we have today. The Whigs are the predecessors of the Republicans, but again, with different values than the modern party. Through this period, the Democrats dominated. All but 2 presidential elections were won by Democrats, thanks to their strategic holding of the South and making gains in northern states like New York and Pennsylvania, where they successfully appealed to new immigrants coming over from Europe to build their blue-collar base. The Whigs got the short end of the stick. Not only did both of their presidents die in office, but sometimes they couldn't even decide on a candidate, such as when they ran 4 different ones in the election of 1836. The system is usually seen as the antebellum system, the period leading up to the American Civil War. The ever-present issue of slavery became hotly debated more and more until the nation could not withstand the pressure and broke apart. But the system had some remarkable additions to American political history in and of its own. For one thing, campaigning was developed more in this period. Today, when politicians tell you why you should vote for them, they're rarely so blunt. They talk about their movement, cultivate their image, and carefully craft an aura around themselves that outshines the human being by a long shot. This used to be very rare until 1840, when second party system politician William Hare, a wealthy, plantation-owning slaveholder, successfully branded himself as a rugged individualist who lived in a log cabin and loved manly things like eating cider and chopping wood. To this day, we don't know many of his viewpoints in detail, because he didn't talk about them at all, and then died after a month in office, because he, didn't wear a coat to his inauguration. In addition, the political party convention, where parties select their candidates in a noisy manner, became a major deal during the second party system, starting with the anti-Masonic Party. Although political primaries and caucuses wouldn't really become another thing for 100 years, the classic style of campaigning we know today was cultivated in the second party system. As the system came to an end, it seemed like a throwback to the first. The Democrats were rising up and up, and the Whigs were just shooting themselves into oblivion. But war was on the horizon, by far the deadliest war in U.S. history, and politics are seldom quiet in a time of war. We'll be discussing that on another episode of The Party Systems. So thanks for watching, and remember, Don't forget to vote.